Okay, folks, next interview with Tribeca filmmaker Tomas. And Tomas, can you pronounce your last name for us?
Tomas Maumus.
Oh, thank you so much. Or Mumu, as he says, which we'll get into. And we are talking today about the movie Paraclete, which is another one of my favorites. I want to start off before we start talking about the film. I want to talk about you because you're from Buenos Aires, which is Argentina. Super excited. I don't know if you know this, but just recently, I was just reading yesterday, your country is now going to be offering an international film production rebate to filmmakers. Is this something you've had a benefit of before, or were you aware of this?
Actually, we have like a very strong like support from the state, because actually like production companies are not that, like they're not so many, and it's not like built as an industry itself. So it's really good having the support from the state and from the government. Actually, we've been helped even to come here to Tribeca. I mean, we were supported for our flights, so it was kind of a good thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Thing we
Because
celebrate.
right, because you're international travel. So for one, you've got to get over there, obviously. And then of course you're attending depending on how many days you are. And I was reading that the rebate itself, it actually reimburses 20% of your expenses, that's very generous for, filmmakers. I think people don't realize how much money it costs to actually make films and then promote them and go places. So I have to ask, because you're from Buenos Aires, coming to the States here, how are things different in terms of promoting film and making films and things like that? Because I'm assuming you've been meeting American filmmakers. So how are you finding this experience?
I mean, it's for us, it's a super rich experience. I mean, I've directed my film with my brother, who has studied here in New York for almost 6 years in NYU. So he kind of knows more about it, about how it works. But I'm kind of surprised every time when we meet some directors or producers in the festival, and see how everything works here, the distribution, the sales agents. It's something that I don't think in Argentina we are used to, that like kind of business way of approaching filmmaking, because it's kind of more independently done, like all those jobs after the movie is already screening and presenting. So kind of we are not used to having that idea of distribution and well, having a sales agent, a publicist who kind of gets the thing going after we have done the movie, like, and it's part of the, I mean, it's how it should be, like having that process totally completed. Like it's kind of what ends up making the film, like last part of it. So I'm so happy to be kind of getting in touch with that type of process, and how you guys here work around that. It's really exciting.
Oh, you betcha. They do things lovely. I mean, there's always great feedback when it comes to Tribeca, plus the relationships you make with the people that you're there, of course. Have you had time to actually screen anything? Is there anything that you've watched that you thought, hey, this is a great film that you can share with us? One that someone should see besides your film, of course?
Yeah, I'm gonna take my Argentine flag on, and I'm gonna say yesterday we saw a movie from Argentina. It's actually a co-production with Spain called Official Competition.
Okay.
It's gonna be premiering now, like in all theaters, at
Oh,
least here in
wow.
New York.
Okay.
But it's a super interesting movie because it speaks about movies and about how crazy it is to make a movie, and kind of a satire around what it means to making a movie, and actors and actresses, and it's really fun to watch.
No, sure. I was doing my research and I noticed this, and this is from your IMDb for the film. So I wanted to ask about this. So I'm cruising along and I'm reading about your movie, and I go down to the very bottom, and under the listed budget, it's $10. I'm like, he must be kidding, right? Like it's $10 to make this movie. Some people have said zero. So I believe it. Like you could literally get enough favors and everything to do it. But I'm like, really? $10?
No, that must be a mistake, a typing mistake when we were getting the data on IMDb.
Ah, okay. Because I
I
was like,
think
oh, I'm so excited to ask him, how did you pull off this movie with $10? I
that
kind
would
of
have
figured
been.
that.
We are not magicians, at least for now.
Well, right. So that does pose a good question, because obviously you did an international film, so you're filming somewhere else. So budget wise, how expensive was it to pull it off between the casting and the locations and such? Was it more inexpensive to film in your country per se versus coming to the United States to do this?
filming in Argentina, it's quite less expensive than here. I mean, at all costs, this movie, this short film we made is like around $10,000,
Oh,
kind of. I
nice.
mean, it's quite a, I mean, it's quite a number, obviously.
Sure.
But it had a lot, like six shooting days. It was like a long period of time which we were working around it. We had a huge crew. I mean, we had a lot of support and people who supported the project in many ways. If not, that wouldn't have been possible with that amount of money. I mean, we had to be supported by many partners who kind of co-produce the film together with us in many different ways. I mean, it's mainly how it works around there. I mean, in Argentina, at least for short films, you end up needing that type of people, which kind of pushes the project and help you in the whole process, which is quite suffering sometimes.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. Well, plus, like you mentioned, you had a very large cast and crew. So, for instance, tell me a bit about the experience of working with a child, because one of your main actors is a child, is a female child. And sometimes some directors will say to me, easiest person to work with on set was the child. And then other people are like, oh my gosh, this is such production. So how was that making a lead a child? Because not every child steps into that as well as she did, because she was very, very good at effectuating her emotions in her face. And you really, really believed in every moment that she was on screen.
Well, I'm so happy you say that. I'm definitely gonna share this to her. And we were really frightened when we were writing the script because we were gonna need that child, and we were gonna kind of and it was written for a male character. Actually, it was gonna be a little boy.
Oh,
But once we met her, it was it was her. I mean, when we met her and we saw how, like, he was almost talking like an old person. I mean, she was like so mature, and she understood the whole script, the idea, everything, like in a way with which we were kind of jaw dropped when we saw her reaction to everything, and how she understood everything, and how she was so interested in acting and dancing and arts, and that's kind of when you find someone like that, like her. I mean, we were so happy and amused, and it was so easy working with her throughout the whole shooting days, because it was really hot in Argentina during our shoot. It was
right.
January, like super hot in the middle of nowhere without even a shadow where to. So it was kind of crazy, and we were also like wondering how she's gonna get by this experience, and but it's her first film. I mean, she had never shot anything before, so we were kind of worried about it, and we were surpassed totally by what we were expecting of her. I mean, she's so beautiful in the film. I mean,
Yes.
her work is brilliant. I mean, I hope she does this for a long time. Hopefully.
Well, plus, like I said, when you're looking at her, you see that she just becomes so devout of her face. I mean, you see her stripped in that moment, and I don't want to give away too much because not everyone has seen the film yet. But you have this moment where she's just full of sadness and frustration and anger and rage, and you see all of this, and she's reaching and looking to him for something, and it's such a poignant moment. That moment where she's just looking at him and wanting to get something from him. And that's truly the heart of a good actor. And sometimes the best actors are found in the littlest people. So I think that's so neat that you were able to find her. Had she done acting before, or was this the first time she was in front of the camera in a short film?
Like small experience, like kind of four commercials before this short film. It was her first time doing a short film or a feature film. I mean, it was her first like kind of protagonist role, and she also does a lot of dancing. I mean, that's kind of
Her
her
thing?
true passion. Like her thing was kind
Sure.
of dancing, but obviously she loves acting, and for her, as I told you, the experience was totally surpassing even for her. I mean, she was really emotional the day we ended the shooting. She was kind of crying. It was like, for us, it was so touching and moving to see her and see how she enjoyed the whole thing. And that's beautiful. I mean, that's the most kind of the things we are here for, like doing a movie. And when you see that kind of, you're you kind of get there with someone, and you make something afterwards, like this movie. It's crazy. I mean, it's the most beautiful thing. And something I want to add, that you said before about her faces and her expression, is her co-protagonist Martin, who is this guy playing Jesus. We couldn't have done it without him too. I mean, the connection they had together backstage behind the cameras, I mean, that generated all those things that kind of happen on screen afterwards.
I'm
And
sure.
he was a huge partner in that.
I want to backtrack a little bit and talk about some of the work that you've done prior to this, of course. I noticed that you are primarily, most of your career, you've done shorts and not features, of course. One of the things I thought about when I first watched your production was this could have easily been a feature. Had it been a feature and you cut it down, I could be wrong. I'm just asking, because I'm like, in my mind, I envisioned this as a longer movie, like a 30-40 minute type movie, which some would consider more of a feature.
We wanted to kind of condense like a really small conflict, like in those kind of 15 minutes. We had some experience in our shorts where we ended up in a bigger story and taking it like kind of longer. And we wanted this to be short, like really a short film. Obviously, like we had some reactions which kind of say something similar to what you are saying, which is that this could have been longer. They wanted to know what happened next, like after.
Right.
That's a good sensation to have after a movie, I think. So we are happy to hear that. Not this project, at least we haven't thought it as a feature film, but I mean, we definitely have now ideas, and we are kind of working towards that in the near future, hopefully.
Okay, I gotcha. Because I did notice, of course, in the past that you and your brother have worked together before on productions. And I, of course, used to work with my significant other. So I always like to ask the question, your family. So sometimes some people say, isn't it great that you're working with a family member? And then sometimes I imagine you just want to like do this and wring them in the neck, etc. So what is that experience like when you're related to someone and then you're working with them so closely all the time? Does that always work really well for the both of you?
As you describe it, I mean, we love, we hate each other, and that's the love-hate relationship we have, but we have so much in common. I mean, we were kind of born and raised together, and the references, the things we know, we love, we like our tastes. We have so much in common, and we think really like so similar, that it's so easy working with someone like that. I mean, and more in a creative process, and because it's a harsh process and a long process, and but it's like beautiful working with him. It's a pity he couldn't be here, but well, I mean, you'll probably meet him another time.
Sure. Oh, you bet.
And
That would be nice. Because I noticed that he writes and directs. And of course, I know that you are a writer and a director and you've done other things, including editing. Do you have a strong suit as a skill? Like, for instance, you're stronger in directing and he's stronger in writing, or would you say you're both kind of at the same skill set level?
we're kind of at the same skill level, because when we write, we kind of go back and forth. The process is kind of like that. Sometimes we join, sometimes one like takes the lead and writes something, then the other gives feedback to that, and that's a good like process during the writing. And during shooting, we have kind of a dynamic in which one is more like on the monitor, like seeing the whole picture, and one is kind of near the set, like mainly talking with actors. And we go even switching between that. Like sometimes I'm on the monitor, and we have that dynamic in which we are not like both on the same thing. Like we kind of go switching between those kind of places. And in the editing, we kind of also have like a similar way as when we are writing. It's kind of, the process kind of returns, and maybe I edit a part and then he retouches and makes the final details. He's quite more obsessive than me, like with image and some small details that I don't even see. So that's a good thing also that he has. I mean, he's so like picky with some things that he like needs to be. So that's a good thing in when editing, like kind of I edit like the like a big picture, and then he goes like into small details, and that's how kind of we work sometimes.
Now, in this particular film, I know obviously that you did the writing and the directing and the editing. When you sat down, or I should say, maybe you didn't even sit down, was it something that you saw, something that someone did? Where's the birthplace of this particular film? Where did that derive?
Well, the birthplace come from this actual event that is depicted in the film. Is something we saw that happens in not only in that town where we shot the film, which is called Castelli, but also in many other places in Buenos Aires and Argentina itself, like in many other places. They kind of during Easter, they recreate some parts of the Bible or like Jesus' life. Sometimes more like this one, which is kind of a theater, like a play, like
Okay.
which the whole town acts like some role in this Jesus life. And well, in other places they kind of only make like a parade in which they go around, and it's not like they don't have that acting stuff in it. It's kind of only a parade and some event they do, but it's something like quite particular and something like common to see in Argentina during Easter. And we got to find that place and that really peculiar event because it's like a huge thing for the town. I mean, there must be like probably 150 people acting in this play.
Wow.
Almost the whole town is like playing a part in it, either doing costumes, either acting. So they kind of bring the whole town together and do this thing. And it was super interesting for us. And that was kind of the what kicked it off, like the whole like, and what if this could happen before the event? Like it was like a starting point or something that interested us, and having someone playing Jesus, it's like
Okay, so Jesus, when you're casting him, I obviously know that you want someone to look like him. And I know your lead actor is like strikingly similar to him because I've looked at him on social media and other places. So when you were guiding or instructing him in the role, I mean, I know it might sound stupid, but like you were directing what you believe to be a much higher being. So what's the one thing most important that you instructed him to do? Meaning when you were personifying this being, what's the one go-to thing you said that was most important to you about him portraying this character?
it has like it's a layered character because it's actually a guy. Like we had an actor playing an actor who's acting as Jesus. It's kind of a metaverse of a meta thing. So it was kind of how he imagined and kind of the stereotype of how Jesus looks and how we have been sold about Jesus in a way. So he was kind of playing with that, like the Jesus stereotype and what we have been reading and being like told about Jesus. And that was kind of the playful thing he had to do, kind of go back and forth between that and him as an actor. And that was kind of the main core of the character and how we try to take it like and portray him on screen.
But that's a good question without giving it away. I got to a point where I was asking myself, or I should say was going to ask the director, is he really playing? Because there's a point where the viewer will watch and ask themselves, and I don't want to give it away, but this viewer in particular, I should say, and reviewer was asking herself, maybe he's not portraying anymore. Maybe this, you're actually witnessing an act of faith here. Was that intentional?
Yeah, totally. I mean, why? I mean, having him there, it was like you kind of end up questioning. I mean, we always had fun like at that scene. I think you are mentioning. That's what we were trying to do, kind of make the audience the other character, make the audience feel like that little girl who is believing in everything she's seeing and hearing, and kind of take that point of view for a while and kind of go with that kind of ingenuity that where we end up believing that this could be happening in a way.
Were you more intent upon producing a film production that was cute, meaning that the whole premise of it is you've got this actor playing an actor who's going off and doing this? Or were you really intent on maybe not so much pushing per se, but influencing the audience that there is a more spiritual meaning behind this production? Was that important to you? Or really was it just a cute, well-made film?
No, we actually wanted both things, I guess, kind of a feel good movie, but also having that like message down the layer like of the conflict, like having that
Mhm.
layer of faith, of religion, and that kind of stories we've been told and that we were told to believe in, and how this like works. And we wanted kind of to play with that. And I said before, like this is so like so into our Argentine culture, like faith, belief, and
Right.
well, like making a whole town act as like some reenact biblical events. So that's kind of a huge thing, and we kind of wanted to play around that. So we wanted to have that those two things, like kind of being a movie you can enjoy and have fun with, and also kind of think a little bit about those kind of themes we were working around.
Sure.
Uh,
And including, of course, the name itself, because the translation does mean given to the Holy Ghost. And so I was wondering, did you purposely, when you made the movie, were you looking for a title that was going to actually be a part of it, meaning that that was done on purpose as well, meaning finding the title connects with the rest of the film?
we actually found the title after the while we were editing. Actually, we found it, like we found that word, and we thought that it really worked, and worked in that way, like
Oh, yeah.
because we had like more basic name. Well, it usually happens. I mean, sometimes you start working with one project name, and you end up kind of in the middle, making a turnaround, a U-turn, and going to another place. But when we found that word, I mean, we thought it just fitted. I mean, it worked perfectly in what we were trying to convey, and also giving that kind of deepness, or at least giving you the curiosity of what's this, because like what's Paraclete, like what, because it's not a really common word.
Oh, no, not at all.
I think
No.
that's a good thing. Like even for us, it was a weird word, and we always try to find something that at least make you want to Google what that means
Oh,
and
without
what
a doubt, I
the,
did right away. When I was looking at the whole list of films at Tribeca, I was like, first of all, I can't pronounce it. Then I'm
yeah.
like, what? What is this about? And then I read the premise, and then it's talking about Jesus and him on the street and this thing happening. And I'm like, okay, now I have to watch it just out of sheer curiosity. I was like, okay, because I know that this is your New York City premiere, and so I obviously I'm pressed, so they give us a screener, but I know that it's been at the at-home pass, of course, too. So when I'm watching this, I'm thinking, yeah, I definitely had to look it up, and then I was like, oh yeah, now I get it. So I see the meaning of this. Plus, I'm like, the main character is not only named Jesus but Ricardo. I'm like, how many people do you see do a movie where they name the lead Ricardo? I'm like, okay, this is a little different. And then I thought, okay, the international thing, all of this jazz. Then I saw the $10 thing. I'm like, now I really want to watch this. Guy makes a movie for almost nothing in another country, and he's got Jesus and Ricardo and a dog and a child. I'm like, this is just perfect. Now I know that you're showing at Village East on the 17th. What is this like for you? Because I gather, I don't want to presume, so I want to ask, the other screenings that you've done, have they been live before, or is this going to be your actual first live screening here in Tribeca?
No, we had two live
Okay.
screening, one at Aspen Short Fest, which I couldn't go, so my brother went there, but I haven't had that experience in the US seeing the movie. So as you can imagine, and obviously Tribeca, I mean, we are super excited about it. I
I
mean,
bet.
for us, it's crazy to be here, and we are so happy and excited about it. We also had a beautiful screening in Buenos Aires at the Bafisi, which is our independent film festival in Buenos Aires.
Nice.
And that was super nice because we sometimes when you screen it abroad, and for example here in New York, it's difficult for the team to come, and the cast and the crew,
Of
and at
course.
Buenos Aires we could make it with the whole crew. Well, Milagros, both actor and actress, could be there at the screen, so it was super emotional too. I mean, we even read a review in Letterboxd saying like, I saw Milagros, which is the actress. I saw the little actress crying while the screening was ending. And that was kind of part of the review of the film she was making in Letterboxd. And we were like, no, I cannot believe it. I mean, it was so moving.
Oh, I imagine so. Now, will it just be, is it just you and your brother going to the screening on Friday?
So now it's both of us and a producer of the film came, Tomas Medero, and also
Nice.
my girlfriend who made the wardrobe design for the film.
Very, very cool. That's awesome.
And we are still figuring if the DOP is coming to Santiago
Oh,
Cantillo, who is
very nice.
kind of doubting if he's gonna be able to make it on time. Well, he's trying to, at least he wants
Oh,
to
sure.
be here.
Oh, you betcha. So I guess for the future, if I were to ask you now, once, you know, some of the hoopla dies down on this particular film, are you already working on something else, or what's kind of for the future for you? What else are you looking at doing, or are you working on something now?
Yeah, we are. I mean, we have some ideas, like some script ideas, still really like only a small, how do you say it?
Just a
Seed,
thought.
like just a seed, just a thought.
Okay.
Some of those ideas, some more developed, some less, but we're trying to giving them form and well, trying to use this experience also to learn and take something and maybe do something that helps like those ideas grow. I
Sure.
mean, watching films, knowing people. I mean, it's really being like such nurturing experience. I don't know if that's
Yeah, that's actually a really good word for it, to tell you the truth. I mean, Tribeca is well known for that. Not only that, the networking potential, the ability to be able to meet people that do what you do and get all sorts of experiences with media and reviews and things like that. Has the film been reviewed yet? Have you heard what the critics have had to say about your work so far?
not that much. I mean, we've been
Okay.
seeing in Letterboxd, which I think it's a really good
Yeah.
app for that. And we've seen some reviews. Most of them are good.
Okay.
Obviously, some of them are bad. Like we've read like things get gory when Jesus takes the wheel.
Oh boy. Oh,
But we like also that. I mean, when we read something like that, I mean, for us, it's about people watching it and having reactions. I mean,
sure.
it's about that. I mean, how like the most people which can see the film, for us, it's like the victory is in there, like having people to see the film. So that's why we were so happy when you contacted us and you felt interesting. I mean, for us, it's like
Absolutely. Sure.
it means the world.
Oh, you bet. So that means I'm going to obviously do a review of this. What I can tell you is, as you're watching this today, I was going to say when my audience watches this today, the takeaway from your movie is, I would describe it. This is the best way I would describe it is, it is only 14 minutes long. So within the course of 14 minutes, what you have managed to do is take this. It's a story of a small child who takes a tragedy and finds out that at the end of tragedy sometimes is the most beautiful teardrop on your soul, but it's a happy tear instead of a sad one. And not only that, her travels found her with not only a small sense of fear, but more importantly, finding a bit of herself and her soul and her faith, which she gets back with this very strange encounter. That's kind of how I would describe it. Hopefully that's enough to entice you to go see it on the 17th. If nothing else, just to meet this darling person right here. Down the future, I assume that the at-home pass means that your film will be on there until the 25th. Is that right? That's the last day?
I think that's right. I mean,
Okay.
until the 25th, it's gonna
Okay.
be online at the Tribeca
Right.
at home.
Right. So people can see it, of course, obviously. And I have listed, I'm going to read off a bunch of places where people can find you because I want them to be able to get access to you. And again, the short version, if you just want to call him the Mumu, which is Mumu, but his real name is Tomas, and the last name is pronounced again.
Maumus.
Thank you so much. And that's Maumus. And he is, of course, on IMDb. He has a Vimeo profile. I found you on Facebook. The website that I found you listed on is spelled REBULOCION.com. And I also know that that's right. And then, of course, Instagram, which is TOMIMUMU. Is there any other place where you have a social media preference or presence, I should say?
No, it's mainly that Vimeo, that web page for our production company, which we are represented, and our Instagram, which is lost.mumu.
Oh, that's awesome. And don't forget,
LOS.mumu.
And don't forget, of course, about your brother, because we don't want to forget to mention him, because he, of course, is also on social media as well. He has an IMDb profile, a Facebook profile. His Instagram is MATIMUMU. And of course, his first name is it MATIAS? Is that right?
Yeah,
That was his name?
exactly.
Okay, gotcha. And same last name, of course, MAUMUS. So we missed him. And of course, Tomas, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to me. Again, the name of the film is Paraclete, and it is showing Village East at what time? That I don't have. It's June 17th at Village East.
16:45.
16:45, which is
So it's 4:45.
4:45.
Sorry,
And
yeah,
that's
sorry.
Eastern
I
time,
have
folks. Eastern time, because you're in New York City, of course.
Yep.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much.